great opportunity for me to share some of my perception to the large audience. As initiated by LIS Academy, initially it was meant for the students and the early career researchers and young library professionals. The presentation also I made in that context. And of course, this scholarly communication is a very generic and comprehensive topic, which is also ever growing. Though it is a very conventional topic, it is ever growing. And I hope that all the participants and distinguished library information science professionals might have come across various stages, the different stages of this scholarly communication. It is nothing but a recording of human civilization. The recorded knowledge, always the libraries are in forefront to share and disseminate in the respective regions about the scholarly communication and the developments in terms of the knowledge acquisition and knowledge dissemination. According to SRR Raghavan sir, that is the father of Indian librarianship, the research starts with bibliography and ends with bibliography. So even D. Price, he has rightly mentioned that 1/3 of the time that researchers they need to spend in their laboratories, and the remaining 2/3 of the time that they have to spend in the libraries towards the preparation. Two parts: one is that mechanical process of the research that they normally carried out in their laboratory, and the second part is the publication or the dissemination or the reporting of the research. So that always the scholarly communication part, and where the libraries are having a major stake along with the authors and the publishers like elsewhere. They are also collaborating with this event, and the other stakeholders are researchers, scientists, and of course the universities and government agencies. So this is very prominent topic. And again, according to S.R. Raghavan sir, the research actually is nothing but to find the solutions to the newer problems. So new problems and new solutions, and then the new solutions for the already existing problems, then verifying the already existed solutions in the present day context. That is what normally this research get focused. So the scholarly communication pattern also accordingly it has to communicated and disseminated to the entire the society. This is today's agenda. Of course, scholarly communication overview, and within that stipulated time, I am just giving an orientation so that the participants, particularly the students and early career researchers and the young professionals, they can have an idea, and that will be of course supplemented by the Dr. Gowda, such an eminent resource person. So definition and background, and stakeholders and life cycle. Who are all the stakeholders? Types of scholarly communication, forms, and then about IPR forms, later I touched upon. Then the format structure. Of course, many publisher presentation, particularly the elsewhere. Even debut yesterday also, one young girl, she was making a presentation on this scholarly communication, particularly this IMROD structure, and the sample formats, tools for scholarly communication. Then there are avenues, scholarly publishing avenues, particularly due to the advent of the technology. There are a lot of opportunities, not only to access the scholarly information, but also to publish on their own. And open access scholarly resources that already we have come across, even then I just highlight. And open science, open research, and open data. This is the new phenomenon for the past 4 or 5 years. All over the globe, scientists are working on it. So how that data itself they can share before the publication of the journal or any forms of communication. Then avenues for libraries. So this is the definition and background I just called out from ACRL 2003, the Association of College and Research Libraries. The scholarly communication is frequently defined or depicted as a life cycle documenting the steps involved in the creation, publication, dissemination, and discovery of a piece of scholarly research. So it starts from that creation, that idea plan, and then the verbal plan, then notational plan, as Dr. S.R. Raghavan emphasized. So that's what the scholarly communication, it involves all process, And due to the advent of technology, now everything is very much available. Since from the beginning of that research and the protocols or the methods, materials, and also the experiments which they are taking, observations, and all those things are very much available. A lot of forums are available. This is what the ACR also has given a right definition. And the scholarly writings, particularly they created and evaluated for quality. Of course, there are formal and informal scholarly communication, but even then that need to get evaluated by some people, the experts particularly, and disseminated to the scholarly community, then preserved for the future use. So this is the background actually. The scholarly communication is not just for the academic tenure or promotion, and I want to have impact factor or H index, number of publications, scopus, or other Web of Science index journals. The main the purpose of this scholarly communication, it may be of PG level dissertation, or it may be of a TAM paper, or it may be of an assignment, or it may be of a seminar, and which need to communicate something new, and which need to add something to the existing the writings or existing literature in terms of the practice, or in terms of the protocol, or in terms of the whatever it may process. So the primary method of scholarly communication is journal literature. This is what since from the beginning, all these societies and publishing agencies and institutions, they are all mainly concentrating, and it's a social phenomenon. So everyone, they need to record the academic work or research work which they were engaged in for the purpose of awarding a degree or any other professional or academic assignments. It need to be properly recorded, and it need to be made available either within that jurisdiction, or it may be at the global level. So unless otherwise it is being communicated, the scientific experiment is incomplete, and it should be preserved for posterity. That's what I already told, that records of human civilization, always libraries, they preserve the resources for the posterity. And even the many funding agencies, European Union, or it may be of any other international funding agencies, national funding agencies, they were all very much concerned on keeping the research outcome as a public good, so that any researcher they can access. And in the present day context, the scholarly communication, it may not have any direct financial reward. So these are all some of the points with scholarly communication. The main purpose is that it need to be properly documented and need to be made available for the future researchers. And stakeholders and life cycle. So this is many times we may have come across. Of course, problem identification, choice of a problem, that is most important thing. And choice of a problem, we studied in our research methodology, a source to find the choice of problem. That is really, we need to take time actually. So literature search and literature review, indexing journals, abstracting journals, then state-of-the-art reports, bibliographies mainly. Earlier we used to access, and now also it is very much available now online. And then the indexing or the abstracting resources, and the experts, the mentoring through these social networking tools, and consulting your own teachers and guides, and the senior professionals, even our library information science, like Professor Kasirappa, Professor Konnu sir, and many people, Professor Steve Murugan. And so they are all source of identifying a research problem. And once it is identified, we need to formulate. That is most important thing. And the researchers need to be of, it should be of quite interesting. At the same time, it should be of quite useful. So in that way, the problem identification should be a formulation of the research problem also accordingly. Research data collection analysis. So it involve in any research actually the DCT, data collection techniques of the 4 types. One is that survey and experiment, observation, and of course interview. Then the discovery also another important. That's what any research. Dr. Neelamegan sir in his article he rightly after the technology which is need to be converted as a appropriate technology. So the converting of science for the benefit of the society, the relevance, that is what the discovery emphasizes upon. And reporting and writing, a lot of the formats are there, since from the designing, research design, and setting up objectives, hypothesis, then choosing the right methodology, and then choosing right analytical tools, then the descriptive or inferential statistics according to the objectives or the hypothesis. Peer review process, that is most important, and we will also the next slide, the different types of peer review, we will go through that. Then it will come finally the publication. It may be of formal or informal. And already told about the main players. I made a mention here. Next. These are types of scholarly communication. Basically, it's a formal and informal. How in terms of scholarly information resources we divide formal and informal. The formal sources again documentary and non-documentary sources. And documentary sources again we divide into primary sources, secondary sources, tertiary sources. So the researchers, since from their early career, they need to consult all the resources, and they need to cite depend on the problem and depend on the topic and the scope from all. That definitely give an improved, enhanced citation behavior, and as if they are accessing all the resources. Then informal resources or of course document this in human resources and the institutional resources that are not nowadays available in the web resource. Earlier when we pursue our research, that reports really it is available in libraries only, we need to go and consult, and now it is available. All the research organizations, they put their today Maya is also with us, and that NISCARE or DBT or DST, you can find all the resources, the conferences and discussion and networking with peers and all those things. Grey literature is another form. That is the reports of the institutions. These are all the different forms of scholarly communication, and the range of forms that will really, it's very vast. And here the most popular, the scholarly communications, I just made a point. Conference proceedings, book chapters, and monographs and trend reports. These two are very important, and the researchers, in addition to consulting the journals, they need to consult the monographs that compile the research development over a period of time. And trend reports also that reveal about organization or people or the research areas which are really studied and proclaimed by the various people over a particular period of time. And the data sets, that is what that open research and open data, that also most important forms of scholarly communication. And drawings, paintings, all those things, musical scores, sound recordings, all those things. The growth of scholarly communication, of course, we always trace about the indexing journal by the Eugene Barfield, and also the abstracting by the chemical abstracts, and the first journal of e-journal, the Harvard Business Review. Lot of books and other forms, and even the elsewhere. He also, in the beginning introduction, he has made a point about the number of authors and number of papers and all those things. Here I just compile. There are about 39.3 million patent families with more than 70 million patents, and approximately more than 1 lakh e-books. And the data sets, you can see that 1.3 million data sets. And according to the Telegraph news, the Google stated that around 13 crores of books which are very much available, the published books. And just I have given a snapshot. Web of Science is very much available in all the in-house libraries, and you can use that Web of Science for the high potential research outcome as a literature review. Just I put that India, that results you can find here. These are all different forms you can access on Web of Science. The forms of intellectual property rights, the patents, designs, trademarks, copyrights, geographical indication, plant variety protection, and layout design protection. These are all nowadays gaining momentum. When we pursue research, we are very much aware about, unless otherwise the NIL or HAL or Indian Institute of Astrophysics, like research libraries, they were familiar. But now these are all in online, very much available. It is very much evident for the researchers to consult even for library information science research also, all these IPR forms, when they are executing a particular research, they can find is there any patents on that particular research area. It may be of library automation, or it may be of digital library, and whatever it may be. And they need to consult all these IPR forms of resources, both to national as well as international forms, for their research purposes. Here I have given that snapshot, and you can find the cumulative statistics of the trend of the patents granted, trademarks granted, and the designs granted, the year-wise, the growth also. I just make a point. This also I compiled the Government of India site. You can see the trend of copyright and patent trends. And trademarks and designs, how many filed and how many granted. And one thing here I would like to emphasize, when NAC or UGC or any other the assessment are aiming to the educational institutions, we normally find quite less number of the IPR forms, and of course patent and that will take time. So they can think of going for copyright. So within a month or 2 times they can get copyrights. Even it may be of their teaching design, or it may be of any the library practices or the research practices, or whatever they feel that there is novel which is not already documented or exist. They can go for copyright, and they can add that also as one of the publication productivity area. This is the patents I just given a glance. It's an agreement between the government and the inventor, so to protect his rights, and also giving license to distribute the exclusive right. And this is the patenting process. Even it is also very much available. They file and provisional patent. Normally we need to get consent with that patenting agents and the advocates. Complete specification. Then within 12 months of provisional filing, the publication after 18 months, request for examination, and examination under process. Then the examiner will report. Then we can respond based on that examination report. That need to be addressed within 6 months. And maximum 3 office action they make. And then after controller hearing, the patents will get granted. In this, these are all the copyrights, softwares, library softwares, then books, essays, compilations, artistic value, paintings, musical scores, charts, photographs, dramatic, that screenplay, drama, all those things I have given here. This regarding this artistic, one example I can share. Even I was pursuing my research as a full-time scholar in School of Biological Sciences. That bats are the carnivorous, like that they made a photograph, and then the bats were also eating the rats. So that photograph was published without giving acknowledgement, and one of our animal behavior scholar, he really make a sue to that particular person, and afterwards he got all those recognition and done. And this is about copyright registration process, as like this patent process. I have just given a glance, so you can just go through at your free time also, not necessarily to go into any detail. And in India, the Delhi, Kolkata, Chennai, and Mumbai are the 4 patent offices. Of course, from there also they are helping the academic institutions, research institutions, and they make lectures, presentations, and they will also enable for the academic institutions to encourage the faculty members for the patenting process. And this is about the preparing for scholarly communication. Of course, it is not just within 2 days or 3 days, or immediately the research department of university wanted to publish my thesis that I need to have 2 publications in UGC CARE or the Scopus or Web of Science. It is a continuous behavior, and unless otherwise we are preparing and we are meticulously working on it, we cannot ensure ourselves as a prolific writer. So whenever the ideas are emerging, it need to get immediately record, and that has to be properly filed with the date. And we, before communicating the article, the tables and graphs and other things, normally whenever the publisher they ask all those tables and graphs and other the inserting resources in a separate file with appropriate specification, so that it will be easy for them to integrate in digital the publishing. And summaries also of our everyday research, the researchers we need to make it. Then the revising of the findings, actually revising of reading means revising of findings every time, and many times they need to repeat their experiment also. So these are all some of the preparations before we started writing the article or organizing the publication. We need to make it. Then choosing the right journal, so that a lot of sites are there, and of course Woolrich periodical directory, like many sites are there, and the JGate or Doge, many sources. And before that, the researcher need to assess the scope, coverage, scale, and even frequency also, and the length of the article. Some journals they won't accept lengthy review articles. So these are all the different parameters. And language, always it used to be simple and clear, and not necessarily that it is like of literary people, but it need to be very active and direct and simple. Then geographical coverage of the journal also need to be taken care. Of course, metrics of the journal. Though we are not able to find a journal index in Scopus or Web of Science always, and we always think of the Google metrics or any other open source metrics. So that and all very much necessary before you choose a particular journal. And reference type, then the peer review process. These are all some of the points the researchers need to get consulted before they choose the journal. And the format I have given here for a patent, like that for every IPR forms, you can go and find the format in which the information if you want to publish, open source and the government sources also very much available. This that journal, as already mentioned, primary communication of this scholarly, primary source of scholarly communication is journal always. So this is that IMRAD, it's quite old structure, and everyone knows. For all subjects, it may be of science or social science or humanities, basically this structure lies. And early journals, it was descriptive many times. Then the second half of the 19th century, that after reproducibility of experiments, the methodology, examination or experiment, then only the structure started gaining popularity. So the IMRAD format slowly progressed to the latter half of the 19th century. I got it from the slide. I have given the reference also. The methods and results, that is that experimental section. The introduction, always you have to give a report about what already happened and how you are going to relate, and particularly you are going to customize many things. A lot of things might have happened, but when we are communicating a particular problem as a publication, we need to emphasize upon in that particular specific context or specific application, specific practice, the happenings, even some citations also. Many times you might have come across the introduction part of the journals full of insert citations. Last few lines, normally we can put forth what we are going to make work out of that introduction. And in many of the international, maybe of thesis or maybe of journal publications, they start writing introduction after completion of everything, and because they have to orient the introduction and conclusion part. So the methods and results, these two parts considers experimental section, and results and discussion. These two parts are the results and discussion. These four areas are very much important in a particular article. This is a structure of article, rigid structure, and it is since from the beginning, even it may be of the early Royal Society publication, the first journal, the same structure till today, though many developments they took place, but the structure is a very rigid structure, and the same structure, the scholarly communication still remains. And these are all the components of the title, author, substract. We will discuss in the coming slides. And peer review process: single blind, double blind, and open. The single blind, reviewer identity hidden, and author only knows. The reviewer knows identity of the authors. Authors do not know. Double blind, both they know, and open, both the reviewer and the author knows. This is quite common. The simple process. Authors, you see, author, the ordering of author is more important. And many times guides, they wanted to post themselves as corresponding or the first author. Normally the researcher used to be the corresponding author. Not necessarily the first author used to be the corresponding author. And there are a lot of instructions given by the different publishers. This one I got it from the Elsevier. And according to that ordering of the author, the researchers, they need to make a mention. And of course, the details of the authors also they have to make a mention their affiliation, all those things, and many indexing databases which they need all that information in order to retrieve that information based on the institutional productivity or individual productivity, group productivity. So these are all some of the basic points. When you are communicating the research article, you need to always keep in your mind the basics of how you are going to give authors. Sometimes even Web of Science articles, you can find more than 500 authors or 300 authors, 200 authors. Large corridor project or infrastructure projects, they used to include all their names. So that is also in practice. Then title, that is most important thing. Maybe for thesis or maybe for a conference paper or maybe for journal article. And title should entice the readers, and it should clearly describe what the problem that this is going to be attacked. Many people, they'll just go to the title and they'll choose the review of literature accordingly. And also it's a matter of indexing sources. The title normally is very much important for indexing sources also. So there are the discussion on length of the title. Many universities they restrict the number of words in the title also. Chemistry and other subjects, you can see the titles like one paragraph. One quite interesting example I can say, these family and social behavior of wives of Greater Bombay. But the title should be of family and social behavior of married women of Greater Bombay. So like that, the title should not lead to ambiguity, and the title formation is very much clear. And the keywords, always you use thesaurus for the keywords, because just like that we cannot, and some of the words in the title also can be represented in the keywords. The keywords also very much important for indexing. Abstract, it should be precise, concise, and we have come across descriptive, informative, analytical abstracts. But based on that scholarly communication type, that abstract should be. Abstracts also many times you can prepare after the research is over. Maximum possible it should include all the aspects, including one or two breakthrough findings also in the abstracts. Because many, they will only read abstracts. They may not go into full text. Of course, introduction already we have discussed. So, want of time, I'll just skip. And always briefly, logically, the reader has to get lead to the hypothesis, research questions, and general experimental design or method of what you are going to discuss. So, what is to be important, what is to be studied, what already known, and what methods and approach are available in that area. All those things the researchers need to include in that introduction part. And methodology, that is most important aspect. In general, the research only 5 methods. That is the study of population, entire population, census, or the study of the tigers in a particular sanctuary, census of tigers. These are all some examples we can say. Then the case studies, it is about clinical studies or individual organizations over a particular period of time. That is case study about a particular object, particular period of time. Then you can say that statistical approach, that is about even COVID-19, number of cases and number of treated cases, number of cases which are hospitalized, like that, based on the statistical approach. Then another one is historical study. So there is also another important area of research. Normally, people they carried out. That's what that method. The results, it should be of objectively findings, and always not necessary to have the interpretations or inferences. Directly the descriptive results for the experiments or even for the table results we need to give. In the discussion part only, that results need to be get interpreted, and always link this discussion session to the introduction part. Discussion also should explain the research, how it moved the body of scientific knowledge forward, and also suggestions for the further development of this particular research. That also the indicate uses and extension if necessary that we can make it. And conclusions always supported by the results. Acknowledgements, funding agencies, the institutions where you are working, and who and all contributed, and the major contributions we need to acknowledgement. That is also quite helpful for the indexing sources also, from which funding this particular research is published. So that is very much necessary. And even many times the thesis acknowledgement, I request the scholars to complement the libraries where they get access to the resources also. And supplementary materials, the final part of the article. That may be of pictures or graphs or the citations, whatever it may be. Whatever you feel you want to give, you can give the supplementary material. Many times in these also you can find the supplementary material that may go higher than the analysis part. So that will act as a supportive literature for the researchers, particularly for large communication like thesis and reports kind of the report literature. And some of the major points for the acceptance, scholarly communication. Always your research should fitness for the purpose, and it should not be very vague. Serious scientific facts we need to put forth, and there should not be the improper interpretation. And many data cooked up because of this publish or perish syndrome that editors easily identify, and a lot of opportunities to get rejected. So whatever it may be simple data, and that need to be the original data, which it may be of social survey or it may be of experiment. And the novelty, that is most important, because research is an incremental, everything complete, entire, I cannot say it is a very novel and it has made a very groundbreaking or it made real great impact and all, because it is an incremental. So what that novelty content that need to be pointed. Formatting, that is the most important thing. Many journals, unless otherwise it is properly formatted, they do not get considered for publication. So formatting, though you are having very good research, that formatting is most important thing. Next. This is the thesis format. So just like journal format I have given here, front matter, body and end matter. And in European and other Western thesis, you might have come across from the NDL TEDdy and other world university thesis portals, including our Shodhganga. They actually give the findings in the first part instead of and they, along with the introduction also, and sometimes they merge the methodology in the introduction part. So depending on the university guidelines and the organization, that body of the text that may get changed, and the title page, the integrity certificate of declaration or plagiarism certificate, and all those things comes into that front matter. And end matter, bibliography, normally sometimes people used to cite pagination. They are not supposed to do it. And bibliography is after the final chapter, that is come as a end matter, along with appendix and supporting materials. The skills for scholarly communication. This is very much necessary. The skills for scholarly communication. And over a period of time, the researchers, they used to get imbibed from their research guides and from their peers and from their co-scholars. And they also need to develop the skills by accessing the scholarly information resources. It may be a full text resources or the secondary sources, or even the research academic networks, social networks like this Mendeley or ResearchGate. And also they need to come across the open access policies and data mining, search strategies, the outreach sites, and the institutional repositories, and library and information science professionals. We need to have familiarity with all those the sets. Nowadays it is very much possible to learn the scholarly communication skills, because one thing I would like to make a point here, many times it's maybe of Elsevier, or it may be of Springer, or it may be of Nature, or it may be of Sage, or all these prominent scholarly publishing commercial avenues. They prefer the biologist, or they prefer the management guys, they prefer the engineering guys. Very few library information science professionals are taking. The other day, Satya sir was rightly making a point. The top 3 people, those who are contributed, even I can quote an example of the IASC librarian, Dr. Anand. So very few people they could find in this scholarly publishing, particularly the commercial avenues, where library information science professional also need to get an opportunity so that they may get a very good salary and other perks and other things. So there is also one area where the placement we can think of, and for that these skills are very much necessary. And this is the landscape. And normally when we are teaching our students, I used to educate them to familiarize themselves different forms of metadata and REST data support. Many times they know, actually in the doubling code they used to upload the thesis in the Shodhganga, and they used to construct bibliography. They use EndNote, and they are practically engaged in, but they were not understanding thoroughly conceptually. So that is one of the important aspects that teachers also need to familiarize their students, and the research scholars also need to familiarize. For example, DOI, one example I can say. So digital object identifier, and how that has its own importance in terms of the retrieving, or in terms of storing or organizing the research publications, which are quite useful for the introduction part or methodology part or the analysis part. So for that purpose, they need to familiarize the major forms of metadata. And of course, a lot of tools are very much available nowadays, and not necessarily they can go on the video, audio lectures, and PowerPoint presentations. Instruction of authors. Earlier, they used to bind in libraries, and we used to put the instruction of authors for the all 100 journals, which I am subscribing in my library. And also dissemination, the Mendeley and the various other tools I compiled in my the presentation also. So that is very much important. Every yearly researcher, they need to have a registered ID in that disseminating sources. They can disseminate the publications. And when they are disseminating, when they are putting in public domain, definitely they will very much concern on the awareness on the copyright and the quality and various aspects. So in that way, that also may get enhanced. Of course, preservation of research and teaching materials, that MOOC, the SWAYAM, Government of India also encouraging, and UGC, e-Pathshala, like many your research materials you can archive and you can keep, and these are all some of the aspects. And this also I got from the this ACRL, Scholarly Open Access Toolkit. These are all the developments which took past for the past 10 years, and different tools for writing and publishing, and also analytical tools to assess the impact of that particular research, outreach through various academic and social network, and analytical tools of the clinical or the biomedical or the life science or the chemical protocols. So that also very much necessary to familiarize by the researchers and the research scholars. And here I have given here, and of course, Faculty 1000, they used to every week 1000 alerts, the 10,000 alerts on different area they used to send. Like that, the clinical pharmacology, the data sets, eliminate, fixture, where all the figures, data, tables, and all those things. Like that, every tool has its own significance. You can just go and browse at your free time, and if not all, you can organize the data in some of the major tools. Particularly Mendeley is quite useful, and they will really link the people, those who are already accessing that particular journal article, or the people those who are working in that. And you can also get recommendations of the articles if you are not able to find. When you are experiencing yourself, you can really enjoy that, how that you can make your research, and you can sail across the globe to familiarize your particular research context or practices, whatever it may be. And these are all some of the, I'll just quickly run through. I given here, I compiled actually. You can have a look. Anyway, I'll compile a full text also for this, and I'll give it to Kunur sir. That will be posted later on. And the bibliography database, the conferences and all, when you are convening, you can also try to get the help of indexing in these indexing databases. Even elsewhere and other people also, they encourage. So only the academics and researchers, they need to approach their guidelines, and how that conference pricing also get indexed in these indexing sources. Next. And this is that open access scholarly communication. Of course, the green open access and directly publishing your article. It is not very easy, and really you have to identify, and that article should be of that much quality, following all the structure and other semantic and syntactic aspects of that quality of scholarly communication. And gold open access journals, and author pay open access journals, and also hybrid open access journals. Then mandatory European Union, they from since 2020 they made amended all their funded research communication should be of open access compliant channels. So like that, many funding agencies they are making. So this is that I have given here. So I can run through want of time. Lot of Indian institutional repositories, and according to the statistics, our India is in top. It is in 5th position among that top 5 positions of the repositories, open access repositories. Many they have given either to the public or to their own research scholars and the faculty members, those who are the stakeholders of that particular institution. This is that MyS is with us, CSIR open access content, quite useful for all the researchers. Just you can browse, if not necessary that we are going to completely download and we are going to have a very serious reading kind of thing. We cannot make it even in the earlier stage. Dr. S.R. Ranganathan or Eugene Garfield, they themselves, they categorically said these 10 to 22 articles that only write articles for a particular review, that touch upon the umbrel. So as we studied in our library science, alien, pinambural, umbrel, that Apupa pattern. So that umbrel, that one actually, that 10 to 22 articles. So though you are downloading, and that's what you should not have a single bibliography. You should have a list of bibliographies for your research. And even libraries also, they can help with that biblioclinical report. So when you are citing in text or the references, that always you can give to librarians, and they are actually fix that bibliography according to the context. There are studies on title and the full text context words, the word context and title, and objectives and word context, and the hypothesis and word context, methodology and word context. So for that purpose, it will be of quite useful. And the library researchers and library science scholars also need to learn how we can prepare that biblioclinical report for a particular researcher. Grey literature also, a lot of things are available. A lot of the research tools, these are RSS feeds and reference management tools, then journal selection tools for the language, Grammarly and subscription based, and these open access tools and are available. But all those tools you can only use, but you have to customize. It depends on the topic or depend on the research what you are communicating. You are not supposed to just directly depend on that particular. Even in plagiarism also, it's not that what that plagiarism tool which is giving. And the researcher and the guide, they have to go through that, and accordingly, even the university sections also, they have to really understand, and accordingly they have to permit. So here that Kannan is going to make a very good presentation on that, and Vidwan, it's quite an old initiative. Now they have updated with a lot of the technological apps, so that will automatically crawl the research publications wherever it is available, and that enable the individual faculty members. Every faculty members in the universities, I request you can go and upload your register and upload your publishing or academic credentials, and you can have a picture, and you can also assess the progress, and that will be visible for others. The visibility is the most important thing for all these identifiers. Actually, for universities also they need to have their identifiers. For individuals also they need to have their identifiers, because any research that need to be made available, it's a public good, and so that people can follow and they can access the nearby resources. And the style manuals, and nowadays you can from EndNote or even MS Word itself, that enable you to organize the publications from one format to other format. It's quite possible, and demonstrating videos are available. Students can go and access, but 8 components in any bibliography. So we studied in our ISBD format and cataloging also. That is imprint and locus and author, and also about the subject or the title. So these separated into that 8, and accordingly every form. So APA is quite popular, and Chicago for the humanities and social sciences, MLA model normally for the humanities normally they use actually. The journal starting tools already told about the free journal starting tool. Here's some journal guide, and even Doge and the JGate and many indexing databases you can go and find, and you can choose that based on the impact factor. The SciMago, JR is there, and open access. So if you are having above science, you can go and SJR you are subscribing, or even previous year SJR also you can subscribe. So there is no any problem now. Even you can get the help of the librarians, and they are really ready to help to enable you to understand about the publishing. And of course, a lot of open access. What I have given that tools, the scholarly communication tools. Many tools they will also reviewer, like review, like that. Many tools are there. So the reviewing process, how that is taking place, and what are the journals. Even they will give guidelines for the journals also, how they can enhance the review process, how they can maintain that quality, comparing with the reputed, the Elsevier and other journals. So in that way, researcher also can find the quick possibility of publishing publishing in indexed journal or impact factor journal. So for that learning also, the students can have by going through all those open access databases in addition to accessing these journal guide tools. And already we have discussed all these IDs. Definitely the researchers you should have, particularly the students, PG level students and research scholars. My suggestion is that you can go and have it. And like that, REPAC and Google Scholar ID, Microsoft Academic ID, like many IDs are available. An international standard number identifier, that is quite standard instructions. Every university, Bharathidasan University, Bharathidasan, many universities, they got that international standard naming identifier number also. Dr. Kannan will explain in his presentation. And the snapshot I have given here. And this is just, I will conclude within another 5 minutes. Open science, open research, and open data. So it is necessary for both librarians as well as the researchers, and even the publishers and the societies. Of course, they always support the open access, and the commercial publishers also, they are coming forward and they are encouraging, and parallelly they wanted to make their resources in open access, and they are collaborating. A lot of things you can find when you visit webs elsewhere, or the other Springer, Nature, or other sites also you can find. And this is nothing but the collaboration, the open collaboration and contribution of research data and laboratory notes, research process freely available under the terms that enable reuse, distribution, and reproduction. Because the European Union, in an article, it is saying that more than 70% of the research they are really finding in terms of the reproduction. Because as I already told, even Newton himself, he has clearly stated that I am standing on the giants I am standing on the shoulders of giant scientists. It is not that my contribution. I am standing on the shoulders of giant scientists. So that itself emphasis upon the sharing of research, access to the already shared research. So not only the outcome of the article or the publication thesis or dissertation, whatever it may be, but they need to access enable access for their protocols and laboratory notes. We have studied in our BLBC that laboratory notes is one of the primary unpublished source, and now that is also very much available. So that is what about open. OECD defines the primary outputs of publicly funded research results, publications, and research data in digital format with no or minimal restriction. So it is not new, and Genome Project, when they introduced during 90s, that itself started encouraging the open access, and now it gained momentum. So particularly for the scientists and engineers, technocrats, and medical professionals, these open research initiatives and open data initiatives are quite useful. It is a comprehensive term of all open access software, open access scholarly resources, and open source codes and all those things. So this I have given actually fair data, that is very much concerned about this findable and accessible, and also this reusable. That is what that fair data talk about, that open data. So these are all the open data providers I have given here. many providers are there, and you can go and explore, and you can see what the possibility of the usefulness to you. Government of India also having their own data portal, and the ES and Kaggle, World Bank, the Union organizations, Spark, these BMJ, Open Science. So all those things are quite popular. And the National Academy of Science, Engineering and Medicine, they also do have Open Science. OECD, they are having the enhanced access to data models. The African Research Cloud, then Horizon 2020, it's a project by European Union, and the European Open Science Cloud. So you can come to know about the access as well as usage and also contribution of your, it may be a very small incremental that you can contribute. So it will also encourage to get citations from various resources that will encourage, increase the citations also, impact of your own research also by contributing to that. So these are all the different avenues for the libraries. And as I mentioned, scholarly publishing, research data management, then IPR area also, the library and information science professionals, they need to find it. Then the training and information literacy, not only the avenues for the employment, but also the scope of that library work. Because now the libraries participative research support, Konu sir was talking in his initial introduction, that research support is the core. Even Ranganathan again advocated for participative research by the librarians. So they are not supposed to only give access to the resources. They need to train and they need to guide. It may be of anticipatory or it may be of on demand. So a lot of tools are very much available. We also studied Library 2.0, 3.0, or the social networking tools, how to reach. So that timely updates, frequent updates, that is very much important, and it takes a lot of time. And of course, by familiarizing with all those tools, and when we make it as a culture, definitely we may also get expertise. One basic example I can say, the researchers, those who are writing the articles, they really, they expertise, because of their expertise, they can communicate. And even when I was working in NAC, Professor Prasad, our director, though it's a very bound book, immediately within a day or two, you'll completely go through that and you'll return it back. So this voracious reading enable him to completely access that content in a very short span of time. So that's what that Sendamilum Napalakam and Chitramum Kaipalakam, that is a Tamil proverb. So by doing so, definitely librarians also can make their what I can say, the particularly young researchers, they are technique savvy, Z generation students, Z generation users, and Z generation people. They can easily collate and compile, and they can familiarize any technology. So these are all the important assignments pertinent to the libraries and library professionals to engage with these researcher and scientific community. That's what I mean to say. And to conclude, see, the research of two things. One is serendipity. So serendipity research means intuition actually. So intuition always strikes. It may be of Kepler or it may be of Newton. They actually all of a sudden, sometimes they may get idea, and they started experimenting. After seeing that apple fell down from that apple tree, or the James Watt after watching or observing that cooking idol, that steam, how it moves. And these are all some of the examples we can say that for serendipity research. And the another is by practicing. So always we need to have a particular focus, and interest is also more important thing. Scientometric, of course, we are giving in library information science, rather than concentrating. Even sometimes we can give in a very enjoyable light way also coffee, bibliometrics on coffee, or the scientometrics research outcome on Western Ghats, or the bibliometric research outcome on tigers, various environmental, societal impact, which really wanted to document and which really wanted to communicate. And even the DRDC dissertation, you can find the study of subject or unit of study. Many times that may be quite interesting rather than the thesaurus or clasaurus or the trend report which they compile. When I visited 90s, early 90s in DRDC libraries, that will talk about that particular subject, that growth and that present status. So in that way, The research ideas also should be of quite practical, relevant, and they need to understand thoroughly. And uniqueness, then of course the rapid changes which taking place in scholarly communications, one has to understand. As initially I mentioned, unless otherwise you are communicating in appropriate manner, you are learning that communication style, because English is a foreign language for all of us. Scientific language is also it's a technical, and we need to learn. The communication is the outbreaking experiment, or the idea, or the what I can say, that the research work that may not gain recognition and momentum. So with this, I conclude. Sorry, I took 5 more minutes more than the actual time which is allocated. Thank you very much for the opportunities given by the LIS Academy. I also take the opportunity to thank Professor Konnur sir and Shivram. Since from the beginning, they are really taking all the pain. My heartfelt thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor and the Registrar and authorities, and the Informatics Center of Bharathidasan University, Dr. Arik Raj, the programmer, and my research student, Mr. Sanmunadi, and also my acknowledgements goes to Professor Steve Murugan. I always used to consult him, and all other stakeholders and also participants for patient listening. Thank you very much. Now it is over to Mahesh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Srinivasa Raghavan sir. Friends, I forgot to inform you that Dr. Srinivasa Raghavan is the Vice President of LIS Academy. He is the main pillar, one of the main pillars for development of LIS Academy. And most of you all will also help us to build LIS Academy like him. I've answered most of your questions in question and answers related to LIS Academy. We will definitely come back to you sometime later also. With this, I request Dr. G. Mahesh to take the questions and push them on. Thank you. Dr. Mahesh, please.
Yeah, I would say we have been bombarded by questions. There have been several questions, so it is just impossible to take all of them. And many of the questions we have answered online. But I think I will pick up, in the interest of time, pick up maybe 3 or 4 questions possibly. See, if one of the questions that has come is from Satyaranjan Sahu. He asks, I think he is from Odisha. So he asks, why there are very few publications in high impact core journals such as Scientometrics and JASIST by Indian LIS professionals, whereas Indian LIS professionals have a long list of publications. So what he basically wants to know is, in the context of scholarly communication in library and information science, the observation that is that we don't have many library science research papers in high impact journals like Scientometrics and JASIST. So I thought that is a question that is that merits some consideration for answering by the experts here.
It's Mahesh, you also may be knowing, and of course that is depend on the individual researchers and LIS research guides. We need to find that appropriate avenues. It's not necessary that my publication I can only communicate on library and information science journals. If I am not able to find good number of LIS journals which are having high impact, in India we can find that annals. That is the only journal, and of course library philosophy and practice is there. But normally we prefer that annals, then we go for the library philosophy and practice. It is also dependent on again the journal people also. But one thing is that if you really communicate your research with the appropriate quality, and that the problem is novel and very much warranted, it is required, then definitely the citations the journals also may receive based on that article. And the second point, the journal actually, the research, library science researchers also, they have to look into the other journals actually. When I am making a thesaurus on genome, or on this COVID-19, the research outcome on COVID-19, or any other prominent the subject which I am going to completely study, I can find some good journals which are related to that particular subject. Because you see earlier the word Gibbs law and also Bradford's law, in a particular subject, the core number of journals they are dominant like that. Now it is not the case. Even the collaborative authors only can find there are single authors concept. It has gone down. And another aspect is that we can find the quite large number of journals. So in that case, the library science researchers also find the other journals belong to the general or multidisciplinary or even other subject journals where they can try to communicate. And the journals which are very few when compared to, because the subject also, you see, physics or chemistry or life sciences, when compared to social science, here when NAC and other things comes, only life sciences or physical chemical sciences, their citation impact and all, they come to matter. Social science only very few, and even they are not able to find a good number of impact, cumulative impact factor when we are asking the social science process. But there is also general trend also, you know very well, that citation pattern that may differ from medicine to science to engineering and to social sciences. So library information science, they can post in all areas, though it considered under social.
I will. Professor Raghavan, what we'll do is I will also, flag this question for Dr. Gaudar to answer when he is going to talk about the quality of research.
Yeah.
So, so there will be some more insights from him also, and then later Professor Kodlur, and maybe we can talk about this later. We will move on to the next question. The next question is by
Dr. Mahesh. Before you take next question, I have a suggestion that let the question be short, and even Dr. Raghavan shall give a very brief answer so that we are.
Start off with one more question. We will take just one more question and then stop it here. The next question is by Avineni Kishore. So what he has asked is, what are the main crises in scholarly communication these days? So what Dr. Raghavan can very briefly or very quickly answer is there a crisis in scholarly communication? Yes or no? If there is a crisis, maybe you can mention about 2 crises in scholarly communication that is prevalent today.
Of course, there is a crisis, but it is not in already reputed or the recognized channels of scholarly communication. Because of that, publish or perish attitude, and every university or UGC or other higher up agencies, they are very much emphasized, because you see this scholarly communication, as Kunu sir said, it is not for a particular purpose. As I mentioned, academic or tenure or promotion, it should be of their own interest, and that way the crisis can get reduced. But when I am carrying out a particular work in a compel or it is an object, then also I need to really justify to that assignment. So it depends on the individuals, and it depends on the mushrooming publications.
Professor Raghavan, can we just say crisis number 1 is this, crisis number 2 is this? What are 2 crises? Yeah. For example, predatory journals are today one crisis. So there is one problem with scholarly communication today. What is the crisis number 2? Just say in a sentence.
Crisis number 2 is the compulsory publication. Actually, the all these requirements. So because of that, mushrooming publishers, and that attitude is most important.
Okay, on that note, what Dr. Raghavan said, that there is some kind of what I would call it as a pressure to publish or compulsion to publish. He said, on that note, I will stop here and leave it to Dr.